In this video we're going to look at the snare drum, which is an incredibly versatile instrument. The modern snare drum can be used in multiple settings and almost every genre that you can think of. So how did we get to the modern snare drum? We're going to be looking at a little bit of its history, we're going to look where it sits in the drum kit, we're going to look at what makes a snare drum rather than a tom-tom like the other drums you see on the drum kit. We're going to look at some of the different materials they use to make snare drums nowadays, as well as some of the range of sizes that you can get. So let's start off with, where did the snare drum come from? So snare drums started in the Middle Ages with a thing called a tabor, which was a round drum that you carried, had an animal skin head on it and a bit of gut stretched across the back to give it that vibrating, distinctive snare drum sound. Nowadays, of course, most are made of wood or metal. The heads are nearly all plastic nowadays, and what was the piece of gut across has been replaced with metal wires, metal strands called snares. One of the most common uses of the snare drum has been used in the military. They were used to lead soldiers into battle and also to transmit commands to the army from the generals who were sat back surveying what was happening. They could send orders to retreat, advance, all that sort of thing, by using different signals on the snare drum. The snare drum sound would carry so well and be so distinctive, soldiers in the field would hear it above the noise of the battle. Nowadays, of course, we tend not to use drums to lead soldiers into battle, but the military still have drummers in their military bands. As I'm sure you know, military bands tend not to sit behind a drum kit, they march. And that means the snare drum has to be portable, and a military snare drum is usually carried to the side against the left leg of the drummer playing it. Because it's to the side and at a slight angle, it's very difficult to get over the drum with your left hand, which is where they developed the traditional grip from, which you may see some drummers using. As I say, it's extraordinarily versatile, and over the years the drum has been developed and improved, and there's been experiments. DW even make a concrete snare drum, which I haven't played, but I've heard it. It's actually got quite a unique sound to it. So let's look at what makes a snare drum a snare drum. Well, what makes it different really from the other drums in a drum kit isn't so much its material that it's made from or its size, it's the metal wires, the snares that are stretched across the bottom skin, which vibrate against that skin and give it that rattly, distinctive snare drum sound. These wires can be lifted up so they sit on the head, the skin, or they can be dropped away from it, all with the use of a small lever on the side of the drum, giving the drum either the distinctive snare rattle or a more open sound, a bit like a tom-tom. In a kit situation, the snare drum is usually right in the middle, right between your knees, because it's an important drum and it's used a lot and we can do a lot with it. We stick it right in the middle so it's right in front of us, both hands can get to it nice and easily. There's no stretching, one hand doesn't have an advantage over the other, it's in the middle, ready for us to do whatever we want to do with it, whether it be rudiments, whether it be rolls, or just a simple backbeat on 2 and 4. As I said earlier, there are loads of different materials that drums can be made out of. Some are made out of wood, and there's a whole range of woods that you can use, from maple, which is a very common one, right up to exotic zebra woods, and DW make a drum from a tree that had been found buried in some ancient mud on a riverbed. I think this tree dates back something like 9,000 years, something like that. And they managed to make a drum from some of the wood from that tree. So yes, some are made from as I say, more common woods like maple or birch, and others can be quite exotic. You can also get metal snare drums. You can get plastic or acrylic snare drums, really famous by John Bonham with his famous orange clear drum kit, snare drum, and the whole drum kit was made from acrylic. So they really can be made out of almost anything. They come in different sizes. There are very small ones, usually called popcorn or piccolo snares. Piccolo snares tend to be very, very thin. Popcorn snares tend to be small in the diameter. They vary in depth. They've all got their own characteristics. There's far too many variations for me to go through in this one video. So there it is. There's my beginner's guide to the snare drum. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope you take time to check out some of my other videos. The most important lesson, however, is to remember to have fun. The reason you sat down at a drum kit in the first place is because you enjoyed it. So, go away and have some fun, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.